All right. Sit tight with me just for a second. Got it. All right, guys. We are back. Thank you for being patient and joining in on the conversation for today. Again, guys, Dr. Nathan Thompson here with the Exemplify Health Center, your Wellness Way affiliate here in Yorkville, Illinois. And today we're going to be talking about the gallbladder, why this is a commonly removed organ, but why you 100% absolutely need it. All right. Now, full disclosure, are there times where the gallbladder is sick? The gallbladder is beyond repair and the gallbladder must be removed? Yes, guys. But if you have a gallbladder that's not working very well, or if you've had your gallbladder removed, then pay attention to this because we're going to go over some incredible things with you today. And guys, if you have actually had your gallbladder removed, give me a thumbs up because I'm going to show you why you are actually still sick, why you still have these problems. By the end of this video, you're going to shake your head and you're going to say, oh my goodness, how does Dr. Thompson know all of these different problems and issues that I'm actually having? And I'm going to show you why. So guys, do me a favor. Please make sure you share this video, especially if you know anyone who has had their gallbladder out. Share this video if you have anyone who has chronic gallstones. Share this video if someone has some problems with digestion, with bloating, with reflux. Please share this video. And then also please share this video who's had their gallbladder out and they're also having problems with chronic pain, fibromyalgia, problems with estrogen, their menstrual cycle. Because I'm going to show you at the end exactly why this happens, why this is actually tied not to the gallbladder. I'm going to show you the organ that it's actually tied to. And I'm going to show you some things that you can do that you must do, especially if you've had your gallbladder removed, okay? Before we go into the meat and potatoes of this, let me say hi to a couple of people who have joined us. Mitzi, how are you? Thank you for joining me. Tanji, thank you for joining us also as well. And like I said, guys, please make sure that you share this, all right? Now, if we have any questions or anything like that, please make sure you put them in the comments below. If we have a lot of questions, I will go live tomorrow, probably at 11 o'clock, to answer some of the questions that you have that might stimulate you to have questions, especially when it comes to the gallbladder. But let's talk about this gallbladder. Why do doctors take this out so indiscriminately? And why do they take an organ out and somehow assume that the problem has been solved? So let's go over the gallbladder, okay? Before we do that, guys, if you haven't been registered, you are from the Yorkville area, even if you're within a 100-mile radius, make sure that you are registered for the Hormone Connection Seminar. Common does not mean normal. This is with Dr. Patrick Flynn. Dr. Patrick Flynn is coming down from Green Bay, Wisconsin, special for this event. No, it is not online. Yes, it is in person. Patient actually said earlier today, they're like, I thought this was just online. No, this is in person. It's at Whitetail Ridge Golf Course. Beautiful, beautiful facility. But we are rolling out our first in-person event in over 2 months. And we are going to have a great, great seminar. We're going to have hors d'oeuvres. We're going to have prizes. We're giving away thousands of dollars of stuff on that night, just as a thank you for supporting our mission, for being part of the Wellness Way, being a part of our culture. And Dr. Patrick, I know, is extremely, extremely excited. And also, guys, if you're from the area, Dr. Patrick had asked, he's like, are there any good hotels around the area? So he's looking for a hotel to take his wife to. I gave him a suggestion, but if you have, whatever comes to your mind, give it to me and I'll pass the information along to him. All right. Now, all you have to do is on our page, we have this as an event. So just scroll through our page. You'll see this as an event. You'll see the link to register for it. Tickets are just $10. And I believe they're $15 at the door for an incredible, incredible date night. So bring yourself, bring your significant other. You will learn so much about why you haven't felt well, or learn about your hormones. You'll learn about what makes men and women differently. You'll learn about what makes them sick, and you'll also learn about how to relate and how to communicate to your significant other if you guys can start understanding your hormones. So it is an incredible, incredible event. I can't wait for it. Dr. Patrick will knock it out of the park every time that he speaks. People cannot believe how great that it actually is. So Carrie, thanks for joining us. Kristen, thanks for joining us. Teresa, make sure you have your eyes on the road since you're driving. I know I just saw you a couple of minutes ago. So let's talk about the actual gallbladder moving into this, okay? Now, the gallbladder. So the gallbladder sits right below the liver, okay? So it's on the right side of your body, and it sits right below the liver. So it's just going to be just underneath your rib cage on the right-hand side. Now, most people think that the gallbladder is just a storage tank, and it's supposed to store bile. However, when you look at the gallbladder does store bile, but it's also a sensory organ, okay? So it's also innervated by nerves. So you have some sympathetic nerves and parasympathetic nerves, which means that the gallbladder will actually contract when the body is sympathetically or parasympathetically driven, meaning it's in rest and digest. So when you're in this rest, relax and digest mode, this is when the gallbladder has the ability to be able to contract. Now, it's not going to contract when it's sympathetically driven, which means when you talk about having a sympathetic dominance, just think about being high stress, okay? So even the function of the gallbladder is influenced not only by some hormones, and it's called cholecystokinin, which is stimulated by the digestive process starting from the stomach as it goes into the small intestine. So it's stimulated by the digestive process starting, but it's also stimulated by the nervous system. This is why this is so important that when you eat, why being stressed will absolutely wreck the digestive system. And while when you should be eating, you should be calm and you should be relaxed and you shouldn't be in a stressed state, okay? So gallbladder is also, but it also stores this bile, okay? So bile it helps you to break down your fats. So it helps to emulsify the fats, to break them down so that they can become small enough to actually be absorbed into the body. Now let's talk about gallstones, okay? So the organ that's actually making bile is not the gallbladder. The liver is what is making bile, and then it gets secreted into the gallbladder to use as a reserve, as a storage tank. The reason why is because you have a gallbladder is because when you eat a meal that has fat, the liver cannot produce enough bile all at once to be able to break down those fats. So you have a storage tank so that when you eat a meal, you have enough of this bile to actually start to break down and start to emulsify those fats, okay? Now, if you have gallstones, this is the reason why you have gallstones. Gallstones are actually called, or stones within your gallbladder. It's caused by having an increase in cholesterol, but having a decrease in these bile acids, okay? And so when you have this increase in cholesterol, decreased bile acids, it will cause, it increases the likelihood of actually having a stone or calcification formation within the actual gallbladder, okay? So let's talk about bile acids. So what are bile acids? Well, these are the actual acids that help to break down, help to emulsify the fats. Where are they produced? This is very important. I want you guys to remember this. They are produced in the liver via cytochrome P450. Now, what that is cytochrome P450 is an enzymatic process that takes place within cells, especially in through the liver. Now, what you need in order to produce bile acids is you need cholesterol first and foremost. This is what's so crazy is that when people vilify cholesterol, you need cholesterol for so many vital, critical functions inside of your body. And why do you think so many people, especially men, get sick when they try to artificially lower your cholesterol? Because you need cholesterol in order to produce your bile and bile acids. So they're produced by a liver enzyme known as cytochrome P450. What bile acids do is they help to break down fats for digestion and absorption within the small intestine. What's interesting about this as well is that 95% are absorbed in the small intestine and they're actually recycled by the liver. This is very important. So you don't have to always be consistently producing bile all the time, but you also need a healthy small intestine so that it can be reabsorbed and then taken back up to the liver to be recycled, to be used again for digestion specifically of fats. Now, remember about cytochrome P450, okay? So make sure that you remember this. So I'm going to talk about cytochrome P450 in humans, okay? Now, these are within the cell, in the mitochondria or the endoplasmic reticulum, okay? Now, I underline this right here. This is why cytochrome P450 is so important, is because this enzyme play a significant role in hormone synthesis and breakdown. All right, so just remember that. So not only is it needed for bile production, but you also need it for hormone synthesis and breakdown, including your estrogens and including testosterone. So you need this in order to metabolize these estrogens and also to be able to break them down and to be able to get removed through the liver. Also needed for cholesterol synthesis. Now listen to this, vitamin D metabolism. Cytochrome P450 enzymes also function to metabolize potentially toxic compounds, including drugs and things like bilirubin, principally in the liver. So I want you to think about that for a second, is that in order for you to produce bile acids, it's the same enzymatic pathways. And basically what enzymes are this. Enzymes are the key that unlock the door for someone to go from A to B to C to D. You need these specific enzymes. So I want you to think if you were like, you were in a room and you needed to get from one side of the house to the other, but you needed to go through 4 doors. And through each door, you needed a specific key. These are what enzymes do, is that they open the door for something to go from A, then to B, then to C, and then into its final product. So the same enzyme that's required for bile acid production are the same enzymes needed to detox. They're the same enzymes needed for estrogen metabolism, for testosterone metabolism, cholesterol synthesis or making cholesterol, but also for vitamin D metabolism, which is critically important because vitamin D influences the genetic function of over 1,500 different genetic processes inside the body. Now let's talk about cytochrome P450 with your hormones, okay? So these bile acid receptors, okay? So you got receptors in your body that are activated through actual bile, okay? Now, there's one specifically known as G protein coupled bile acid receptor. So I'm going to go over that in just a second. I want you to remember that. And then the other interactions that it's involved with is that it's actually involved with other specific hormone receptors. This is a really long word. I'm not going to actually go over what specifically it's called, but it's involved with the actual production of endogenous cannabinoid processes, okay? Now watch, is that you need bile acid to produce specific cannabinoids inside the body. And what are cannabinoids associated with? This is associated with things like your reaction to stress, your pain response, your appetite, and also overall your lifespan. So let me ask you a question. If some of these same processes and these same hormone receptors are involved with specific cannabinoid production, would it be safe to assume that if you have a problem with bile acid metabolism, that you're also going to have a lot of chronic pain? Could that also be known as fibromyalgia? Okay. Could this also be a problem with your menstrual cycle? Could this also be a problem with being chronically vitamin D deficient? Could this also be a problem with your inability to detox and becoming toxic? Could it also be related to you gaining weight, you have no idea why, and storing the toxins within your fat cells, because that's how the body protects its cells from an acute toxic exposure, is by shunting it away from the organs and into fat cells. Now let's talk about this G protein coupled bile acid receptor. I know that it's a big word, but I want you to stick with me, okay? So when you look at this, one effect of this receptor is to actually convert T4, thyroxine, known as T4, into its active form, known as T3. So guys, when you look at, when a doctor measures your T4, so your T4, your thyroxine, this is actually considered your reserve thyroxine. This is stuff that the body doesn't even use. It has to be converted from T4 into T3. And when you don't have enough T3, this is when your metabolism starts to tank. So it's not your levels of T4, it's your actual levels of T3. So to convert the reserves of T4 into the active form of T3, this also involves bile acid synthesis. Do you guys see how all of this works together? So can you have a problem with your gallbladder, which means you have a problem with your liver, which then also plays in the reason why your metabolism has slowed down to a crawl, because it's also involved with the conversion of inactive T4 into its inactive T3. So do you guys see how the body works as a Swiss watch? It is not as simple as just removing your gallbladder and all of your problems go away. And in fact, what you're going to find is you remove the gallbladder, the acute symptoms go away, but you continue to develop more and more chronic problems that no one has the answer for. So let me ask you guys a question. Now, do you understand why, if you've had a gallbladder problem or if you've had your gallbladder removed, can you understand why you have low vitamin D? Because it's needed in order for absorption and synthesis of vitamin D. Does it make sense now why you cannot lose weight? Does it make sense why you can even suffer with depression? Because when we look at these enzymatic pathways, if there is a disruption within the liver involved in specific enzymatic pathways, this is associated with things like depression. Can you understand why you have a problem with estrogen dominance? Because you cannot clear those estrogens out of your body, and those estrogens continue to build and build and build. Can you understand why you have chronic pain such as fibromyalgia? Because of its involvement with the endocannabinoid system. Can you see why you can have hypothyroidism? Can you see why you can have a problem with your thyroid and the doctor doesn't even notice, because your T4 levels might be normal, your TSH levels might be normal, but you might be extremely low in T3, which is actually what makes you feel good, which actually what driving your metabolism. T4 is just what is considered your inactive form, your reserve form that still needs to be converted into T3. Can you also understand why there's a link between having a problem with the gallbladder and also having a problem with dry, itchy skin? Part of it has to be with the endocannabinoid system, which can cause a lot of nerve ending irritation, which can cause irritated skin. But the other reason why is as soon as you lose your gallbladder, you do not have enough bile in reserves from your liver to be able to sufficiently process, break down, emulsify, and absorb those fats, which means you're always going to be chronically fat deficient. What you need for healthy skin is you need healthy fat metabolism. What you need in order to build your hormones is healthy fat metabolism. You need fat for so many things, including brain function as well. So you guys understand why, if you don't have your gallbladder, why you've gotten it, if you've gotten a ruse, or maybe you have a history of having a sluggish gallbladder, or having gallstones, or having maybe what's known as gall sludge. So having almost like sand within your gallbladder. Why? It's not just a gallbladder problem. It's actually a liver problem. So hopefully, guys, if you are suffering with all of those different issues, why? I guarantee you there's never been a doctor that has actually sat down with you and said, listen, here is what is happening when you don't have your gallbladder, and these are why you're having some of these symptoms that are going on. So guys, I want to say this, is that the sick gallbladder is a symptom of a much larger problem. Let me say that again. A sick gallbladder is a symptom of a much larger problem. The problem is with the liver, and it's not with the gallbladder. So if you think about it, when people remove the gallbladder, they're just removing the organ that is screaming, that has taken a beating because of problems that are taking place in through the liver. Now, if you haven't watched this, last week we went over the tonsils and the adenoids. Guys, we just are removing organs that are screaming with the symptoms, but it actually represents a much larger problem that is going on. So you can see is that in medicine actually says, well, whatever's infected or whatever's not working right, we can always remove it. That includes the tonsils, that includes the adenoids, that includes the gallbladder. And next week, it also includes the appendix. And the next week after that, I'll give you a preview, the ovaries and the uterus. Meaning, well, you must be, if you're not of childbearing age anymore, you're in menopause, you don't need those organs. And I'm going to show you why you still need those organs, because even if you cannot have a baby, there is still a function of those organs. So God didn't make mistakes. He didn't make an organ for it only to be removed. You have to figure out what the larger problem is. And when it comes to the gallbladder, the problem is actually with the liver. So understand this, guys. What I just went over with you shows you that there is a lot bigger issue that is going on when you need an organ removed. So think of this. If you just are having, if it was just, I have a swollen tonsil, we'll go ahead and we'll take them out. I have a problem with my gallbladder, we'll just go ahead and take it out. It makes you wonder what people do or what medicine actually does when you have persistent headaches. Just remove it, and then all of your problems are gone, right? So there's a reason why you have headaches. There's a reason why the gallbladder's not working right. There's a reason why these organs aren't working right, but we got to stop blaming the organ that we're actually removing it. So here's the thing, guys. If you have a gallbladder issue, or if you've had your gallbladder removed, here's what you got to do right away. You have to start doing this right away. So number one is you need to make sure that you get tested. And by testing, getting food allergies done, possibly a stool test, even what I like even better, depending on what age you are, is getting a Dutch test and looking at your liver metabolism and how the liver is metabolizing and converting all of these different hormones. So you got to make sure that you are starting with some level of testing. You have no idea how many women are having massive liver issues, and they're blaming their hormones, they're blaming their ovaries, they're blaming their uterus, they're blaming the organ that's just the receptor, and not actually going back to what the problem could actually be. So number one, you got to get tested. Number two, you got to decrease your digestive stressors big time. Remember we said with the gallbladder and the stomach and with the pancreas is that is not going to work the way that it's supposed to when you have any kind of stress. What I mean by stressors is any kind of chemical stress. You have to look at things like food allergies. You got to look at mental stress. What's going on in your life? Are you stressed out? Who's stressing you out? You also have to look at any kind of physical stressors, any kind of physical injuries and trauma, specifically to the neck, specifically to the spine, specifically to the nerve system. And the third thing that you must do, guys, and I'm going to tell you this, you're going to need to do it for the rest of your life, especially if you've had your gallbladder removed, is that you have to take a gallbladder replacement, digestive enzymes, vitamin D, and you got to make sure that your gastrointestinal system has proper stomach acid. So you need to pay way more attention to what's happening with the stomach, what's happening with the pancreas, and what's happening by putting actual bile replacement into the system when you eat so that you can actually break down the fats, absorb the fats, and also absorb fat-soluble vitamins like A, D, E, and K. If you are not doing that, then you are relying on the liver to just produce the bile and just spit it out into the digestive system slowly. So it just continues to put out just a little bit of bile all day. But when you eat a meal, you need a lot more bile, which is why you're going to need to take a bile replacement. So you have to be on a bile replacement. You got to be on a digestive enzyme, and you got to make sure. Some people need to be on a lot of hydrochloric acid until their stomach can actually recover, just to make sure that the first thing you have to do is just to start breaking down the foods properly. So guys, I hope that makes sense to you, and I hope I helped you connect the dots just a little bit. Now, I know that when you're probably listening to this, you're like, oh man, that makes me mad. That makes me upset. That makes me angry. And I'm going to tell you this, is that if your doctor took out your gallbladder, is that they're doing the best they can with their education. And at that point, there's not a whole lot that you can do, because you have to understand is that most people do the best they can with the education that they were given, with the perspective that they were given. But I came to the conclusion that I don't like that perspective, because it's not working out. People are sicker than ever before. People are suffering more than ever before. You don't have to go down that route. It is okay for you to tell your surgeon, to tell your doctor, I disagree. I'm going to find a different perspective. I'm going to find a different way. But you have to understand is that the doctor is only going to give you one perspective, is his perspective. It's his trained perspective, which is medicine, which is remove the organ. So all they do is they put out fires, but they never go further and try to figure out why there was a fire in the first place. So I hope that makes a lot of sense to you as well. So guys, remember, coming up, the Hormone Connection, Friday, June 26th. I hope you have your tickets because we are going to have a party and it's going to be absolutely amazing. So get registered for it. Make sure that you come with your spouse. Someone told me I'm going to have a heck of a time trying to get my husband there because he thinks that all of this is just stupid. And you know what? You have no idea how many men at the end of it said, I thought this was just going to be stupid. But at the end of it, I actually understand my spouse better than I ever have, despite being married for 10, 15, 20, or 25 years. Thank you, wife, for dragging me along to this event. So make it a date night, have an awesome time. And I'll answer just a couple of questions that you have. So Courtney says, I had my gallbladder removed because they couldn't figure out why I was so sick all of the time. Okay. Yep. So a lot of times what they'll do is just replace the gallbladder, or they'll take out the gallbladder if there's just a lot of weird things that are actually going on. So it's like, we don't know what's going on. Let's just take out the gallbladder. That might be the issue. All right. So Carrie says, it makes me so mad the surgeons happily remove organs. Many doctors don't know, or they don't delve into the reasons behind the issues. Yep. And it's tough. You cannot change being miserable and all the things that this actually caused, many years ago. But the next best thing that you can do is you can change now. So you can't change your past, but you can rewrite your future if you're willing to do it. Missy asks, what about ox bile? Can't take gallbladder complex due to having a rice allergy. Yes, you can take ox bile. Okay, so there's a lot of different types of bile replacement. I recommend ox bile. The other thing too is that if you can't because you have a rice allergy, talk to your doctor about that, or talk to your Wellness Way doctor. I will tell you this, is sometimes even though someone has an allergy to it, we'll still recommend it as long as they're removing all of the other stressors as well. So sometimes with food allergies, you have to ask the question, is the benefit of taking it, is it a lot better than if you weren't taking it and just avoiding obviously one food allergy? So hopefully that makes a lot of sense to you. All right. So awesome. So, hey guys, if you have any other questions, make sure you leave a comment below. Please make sure that you share this as well. I know that we went over a lot of information, but share this with people who've gotten their gallbladder. People are suffering. They don't need to. You got to understand, again, it's a sign of a much bigger problem that's happening, especially in through the liver. So guys, watch our page. I might go live tomorrow at 11 o'clock if we have enough questions. But I love doing this, guys. So thank you very much for being a part of our culture. Thank you very much for watching. Thank you very much for sharing it. You guys have an awesome, blessed Monday night. We'll talk to you soon.